Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to Jerez in Spain. Race 1 underway shortly for the Ferrari Challenge as we make our visit here to this wonderful region, the circuit of Jerez. And this is what it looks like as the sun shines, as it is right now. It is very warm indeed. We're almost halfway through our season here in Jerez, and then it's Portimao, La Casale, Nürburgring and Imola to round out our 2024 calendar. This track then 4.428 kilometers or 2.748 miles. Now, depending on how you count them, 13 or 14 turns, it's 8 right and 5 left, and quite a technical circuit for our drivers to have to master here, particularly in the heat. And there you can see just how warm it is down there on the grid as we get ready for our Coppa 488 race to come. And as we look back at the UFO that braces the circuit here, 44 degrees the track temperature, 33 degrees the air temperature, and almost no wind to talk of, just 2 kilometers per hour of wind blowing at the moment. So it's very busy down there on the grid as the drivers prepare. We'll have some 19 cars out there, the mix of Shell drivers and also some of the drivers driving the 488 cars from last year. As we take a look at some of our cars and drivers then in preparation. Ivan David Mari is one of those. He drives one of our 488 challenge cars. And this is what our last round looked like at Balaton in Hungary. And Tibor Valint, one of the local drivers, and Manuel Agosna being chased hard here by Henry Hassid, who continued his quest against the local star Tibor Valint, and Podium celebrated. And may I just make mention of the fact that trophies were presented by Niklas Nielsen. Congratulations to Niklas, to Miguel, and also to Antonio for winning the 24-hour of Le Mans just last weekend. Tommy Lindroth, another one of the drivers that drives the 488 cars. He drives for the GOM Motorsport Baron team, and Ines down there holding the heat umbrella to keep the heat off Tommy Lindroth ahead of the start of the race. Alongside me is Nico Spalek. It's warm in our studio. Imagine what it's like as Tommy does exactly as he did to me, as he did in 2016 when we were last here. Tommy Lindroth being instructed there by Fabien Volvend, his driver coach. What a star, Nico. Did you set him up for that?
No, I didn't. Good afternoon, and apologies for anybody who felt insulted by that gesture. It was all in jest and all in good spirits here in Jerez. It's really, really hot, as you can see and as you can feel, and the race is going to be very, very hot, both in the 488 Challenge class, and as you said, it's the previous car, served us so well for many, many years, and the new 296 driven by the Coppa Shell. You have to bear with me because Dave is still in laughing fits. So
sorry. I will get it together. Oh, Tommy, don't ever change, will you, friend? He did a good job in qualifying, Nico, if I may say. He qualified P3. He's having a rich vein of form, actually, is Tommy Lindroth in the 488 Challenge. There is Tina. You can see there hiding under the brolly. So just to explain, we have some of last year's cars, the 488 cars, and you can see Tina there holding the umbrella for Mikael Martin, who drives one of the 296s. So basically, you have the situation where you have some of last year's cars and some of our wonderful 296 cars. They're driven by our Shell drivers. You can identify those because they will have the Shell yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, Nico. And unlike these, which have got a blue strip, you see where the Adler is and the blue there, that basically delineates the fact that the driver, Alexei Komarov, is driving one of the Scuderia Prague Racing 488 Challenge cars. Hope that's explained it.
Indeed, very well. And there's only, I say that, 6 488 cars, which is a testament to the fact that Ferrari has been able to produce not only a magnificent car with the 296, and all the drivers tell us it's a magnificent car, yes, but also in immense numbers, which allowed everybody who wanted to take part in the new 296 was able to do it. So yes, the transitional year is very much skewed towards the new car. But we're happy to have all those 488 challenge competitors on the grid as well.
Absolutely. So, as Nico says, it's kind of a transition year, really. But the team at Maranello working so hard to produce so many of these wonderful new Ferrari 296 Challenge cars, which feature not only here in Europe, but also in North America as well. That's a huge amount of cars that have had to be produced as we look at the 136 car. Of Alexander Nussbaumer, who had quite a lively qualifying, and I spoke to the Haupt Racing team driver just after qualifying, where he was somewhat wrestling with the car, rally style, very sideways through the chicanes, and he just said, you know you can rely on me to always give you good television. And he does, I think that's fair to say. Nico is a charming gentleman, a great racer as well as Alexander Nussbaumer. But by his own admission, he's probably not as far up towards the front as he would like to be.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But we have seen already through this year, it's been a very, very competitive season thus far. And 4 different winners from 4 different races. And today we expect it to be very similar. Will we have a repeat winner or will we have a new winner?
There's Cyril, who is partner to von Skeltermar, who we can see there, who's another driver, if I'm honest with you, who's probably out of position in qualifying. He goes from the 4th row. I think he qualified P8 there, confirmation of it. The Kessel driver, von Skeltermar, with the familiar shark's teeth at the front of his car going from P8. And he's another driver that would have liked to have been further up the order. Right up at the front of the order is Manuela Gosner, who did a brilliant job, and you can see her car to the left of your picture, or you could then. As we look at Christoph Herney, the all-yellow 162 car driving for Zenith Scuderia. And just behind Christoph Herney was the car of Pierluigi Alessandri, and also Ken Abe in that row alongside him, to be fair. Ken Abe right behind him. And of course, Christoph Herney and von Skeltermar. And the Coppa Shell and 488 cars then from our drone shot here. You can see the grid formed for the drivers to go off and compete for 30 hot minutes. That's for sure. Another one of our drivers that's driving in the Shell category, he hails from somewhere equally hot, Miami. And he drives for the collection team, but likes to race here in Europe as well. We met him earlier on in the weekend, and that is Ray Acosta.
The relationship with Ferrari started in 2020. I did the actual Corsa Pilota back when it was 4 courses. Ferrari, the brand itself, and the way they do things is Class A. I mean, the Corsa Pilota class, the people that participate in that will actually learn quite a bit. I jumped straight into the challenge, but I think the proper channel is to do the club challenge, which will actually get you ready for the challenge itself. The 296, it's more agile. It's more friendly to drive. It feels good. It feels like a race car. Personally have a street car of that. certainly getting to Miami soon, but I love it. I love the 296, you know. Unbelievable. Ferrari's just killing it at Le Mans, you know. I mean, I've heard some GT3s have won as well, but the hypercars are doing unbelievable last year, this year. You know, unfortunately, I couldn't make it out there, although I was invited to attend, just as a spectator, of course. But unbelievable win, you know. I mean, kudos to Ferrari.
Thanks so much to Ray Acosta, who took time to sit down with us and have a conversation. He is a fascinating individual and a great racing driver, and he, of course, does a lot of air miles as well as track miles because he races not only here in Europe but also in North America as well. As the safety car leaves, let's get ready to rock. The Richard Mille safety car then always leads the cars away on their formation lap. Sandro at the wheel of the safety car today. Here's our grid. Going from P1, Manuel Agostina alongside Henry Hazid. Then it's Motohiko Isazaki, a good qualifying and also good qualifying from John Dillon. Alexander Nussbaumer and Thomas Gosner complete the third row of the grid. They are P5 and 6, with Corinna Gosner a welcome return and von Skeltmar on the fourth row of the grid. To P9, where we find Christoph Herney, he has Ken Abe alongside him on row 5. Pierluigi Alessandri qualified P11. Ray Acosta, who we just heard from, goes from P12. Then it's Michael Martin, and the best of the 488 drivers was Fabrizio Fontana, ahead of Ivan David Mari and Tommy Lindroth. They go on the 8th row of our grid. On the 9th row, it's Pino Frascaro and Alexei Komarov, and then Nils Sabranson will bring up the rear, going from P19. The scene is set for what is going to be a fantastic race, that's for sure. 30 minutes of action to come. And putting it on pole position, Manuela Gosner.
Ciao guys, super happy about this pole position today. Really proud of my team, Ineco Reparto Corseram, which did a brilliant job all the weekend through and prepared a great car for me. I can't wait for the race. See you there. Bye.
Good luck to you, Manu, driving for the Ineco Reparto Corseram team. Mouthful when you've had one or two lemonades at lunch. Yes, indeed I did. So the cars will line up side by side in grid formation, Nico, and it's going to be almost a test of attrition, really, in very challenging weather conditions. And I mean that because of the heat inside the cars. Wow, going to be tough for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be two phases. First, you have to master the start and align yourself, get yourself in a position. And then it's really about the stretch run, if you will, and mastering not only the track, not only the competition, but also the temperature and the conditions. And Manuel Agostina, Henry Hazid, they had an epic battle last time we were out in Balaton. And, well, if it's anything like that race today, get ready. That was an exciting one.
You're absolutely right, as you so frequently are. It's by dint of you being German. How irritating is that? Not that you're German, that's not irritating at all, but the fact that you are always right.
Focus on the script, Dave.
Very good. Right. Yes. Here are what you're doing. Manuel Acosta and Henry Hazid then on the front row, and they'll line up side by side ahead of Motohiko Isazaki and then John Dillon. For Motohiko Isazaki, of course, Coppa Shell Am champion, elevated this year into Coppa Shell. Really beginning to find his feet now, and John Dillon, one of the most improved drivers. They round the final turn. Hold on to your hats, we're about to go racing. It is the third round of the Ferrari Challenge in Europe for 2024. All eyes on the lighting gantry. When the red lights go out, we will race. Let's do it right now. John Dillon, very keen at the start, trying to just muscle his way past Motohiko Isazaki, and I think he's done that. He'll be right alongside Henry Hazid as they go into turn number 1, the right-hander, and you begin and continue to climb uphill as Corinna Gosner appears to have gone out into the gravel, but he's able to get the car back on track again. That was very good to see. But from a start point of view, Henry Hazid now knows that now is the time that he's really got to pressure Manuela Gosner. Manuela equally will be sticking her elbows out and showing a clean pair of heels to Henry Hazid, who's under pressure from John Dillon, who of course made that move up to P3 right at the very start of the race. Running downhill right now on this 4.4 kilometer circuit here in Spain. Manuel Agostino leading from Henry Hassid and John Dillon. For the 488 drivers, no surprise, Fabrizio Fontana is P1, but Tommy Lindroth with a good start. He got past Ian Barry David and got into P2, Nico.
Absolutely, another one with a good start. Von Skeltema up from P8 to P5. One of those drivers who leapfrogged Motohiko Isazaki, who was one of the losers of the start, is down in P6. But we've got a long race, and we already said it. There are multiple factors playing into who will end where come the end of the race.
Yes, it will feel like an endurance race, even though it is only a 30-minute plus 1 lap sprint race for our drivers, but the conditions that they've got to endure, yes, it's going to be really, really tough for them. Manuel Agostino stretching her legs from Henry Hassid, who in turn has stretched his legs a bit from John Dillon. They are the top 3 as we pick the cars up by drone right now through the final turn, where you don't really appreciate that you actually run uphill going on to the start-finish straight. Another good move from Thomas Gosner, who incidentally is up to P4. Now, Henry Hassid begins his attack on the race-leading car of Manuel Agostino. There is Thomas Gosner, who I was talking to just a few moments ago. But as you can see, the gap that Manuel Agostino had just a few hundred meters ago has gone. And now Henry Hassid is right on the shirt tails, or should I say blouse tails, of the 193 car of Manuel Agostino. And that's a great, great shame. Making her return to racing, Corinna Gosner for the CDP MP racing team. I suspect she's picked up a puncture. They'll get that changed, get her back out again. It's great to have her back on the grid. Henry Hassid then taking a look at the inside. He was nowhere near close enough, but what he's trying to do is just really rather unsettle Manuel Agostino ahead of him. But in fairness, as my colleague Nico mentioned, they had a brilliant ding-dong battle in Balaton in Hungary, and I have to say, Manuela was not for being shook. I can tell you, she's able to defend her position, and actually you can see for Henry Hassid to run in the really dirty air behind, immediately behind the Manuel Agostino car. You cannot do that for lap after lap after lap, Nico. That costs you dearly in terms of the grip that you've got.
Absolutely, although we said the same thing in Balaton, and Henry Hassid just ignored physics and just did it anyway. That was a real one. Really interesting one, and it figures to be very interesting. Again, John Dillon with a little bit of a gap between the two, so it's down to them for the lead of the race, but obviously should they come together, John Dillon will be there and ready to pounce.
It's a tight circuit, truthfully, and it's a bit old school in that there are no acres and acres of tarmac runoff area. So you just have to keep an eye on everything that's going on and try and keep your wheels within the white lines of the track limits. And the reason I'm mentioning that, Nico, whose eyes are constantly on the timing screens that we have to our availability here, is because during qualifying, track limits was an issue. We saw a number of lap times deleted. I can see that track limits are already potentially going to figure in this race, Nico.
Yeah, and we will get into that, unfortunately, later in the race. How it works, you get 3 freebies. After that, penalties come into play. But first, we go back to the start. Just a few minutes time, or moments.
Moments, even. Yes. Henry Hassid is really pressuring Manuel Agostino now. As you can see, and this is the reason we're not showing you the replay of the start, because it just looks like Henry Hassid has got the hurry up and realizes that he needs to do this fairly early on. We did think that a potential overtake was coming just a couple of corners ago, but I have to say it's brilliant driving from Manuel Agostino, who's not phased at all, as pleasingly it looks like Corinna Gosner will be rejoining the race, albeit at the back of the pack somewhat. So is Henry Hassid setting himself up for the next lap in terms of when he will pounce on Manuel Agostino? Where is a good place to try and do this? In my opinion, heading up to turn 1, Nico, is a possibility.
Heading up to turn 1 is a possibility, but if that doesn't work, then effectively you can try and align yourself behind the other driver all the way into the hairpin at the beginning of the second sector, because it's really flowing until that point. But there is such a long, almost full throttle sequence. If you're just behind the other car, it gives you a great option to maximize slipstream.
Right, now here, the liveliest at the start, in my opinion, was John Dillon. He was able to squeeze Motohiko Isasaki. In fairness, nothing wrong about that, because he was well ahead of Motohiko Isasaki and very nearly pitching it between the two drivers right at the front. It was a lightning start from John Dillon. A very good job done by him indeed. And it was also, as Nico mentioned, a huge start for Fons Skeltermar. Brilliant job he did right at the start. Now, he was clearly advantaged by the fact that Motohiko Isasaki was dropping down the order. But Fons Skeltermar was just all the way around the outside. Nico made it stick. He was confident in the car and the grip availability to him. And he moved up 2 or 3 places right at the start. On cold tyres, of course, Manuel Agostino looked just a bit wobbly, and Henry Hassid almost put it to the inside, but not quite. Riding on board with John Dillon, this is what it looked like from being inside the 151 car. And this is how close he got to pitching it right between the middle of Manuel Agostino and Henry Hassid. Wasn't quite close enough to be able to do so, and that was Henry Hassid pouncing. Oh, and there was a little rubber between the two of them as well, Nico. So, for now, Manuel Agostino looks pretty comfortable in that P1 position. For now, she's got a margin of 7.5 tenths. We know that Henry Hassid will not give up until the checkered flag is flying.
Yeah, 23 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, and you can almost take it to the bank that those two will fight until the very end. Obviously, Henry Hassid would like to be at the winning end of that battle, but we will see. Just to finish the thought about track limits, you get 3 freebies. The fourth one is a 5-second penalty, 3 more freebies. The next one is a 15-second penalty, and it gets worse from there. Right now, nobody with more than 1 track limit warning, so everybody's still fairly okay-ish, but the more the tires will come into question towards the end of the race, the more difficult it will be to stay between those white lines.
Absolutely. When the grip has gone away towards the end of the race, as you quite rightly say, it's making it somewhat more difficult to keep the car at exactly the place that you want to keep it when you're pushing as hard as you are. And these two are pushing, and they're trailing fastest laps, Nico. It's a 1:45. 3:69 from Manuel Agostino, and Henry Hassid virtually replicating that. Now, of the top two, it's only minuscule, the margin between P1 and P2, as Henry Hassid again tries to worry Manuel Agostino ahead. And the pace that these two have got, they've broken away from the rest of the pack to the tune of very nearly 4 seconds, Nico, in just the first 9 or so minutes of this race. So there is Hassid again into the chicane. He gets ever so close to Manuel Agostino. It's no good there, but what he does, he's trying to set himself up for the final turn and then the uphill run to the turn number 1. Whereas Nico has said, there are various options really for you. If you can't make the overtake in turn 1, there then follows perhaps some opportunities for you. He's got a good run now though. And Manuel Agostino pitches the car absolutely in the middle of the track. Henry Hassid dives to the inside. He's not close enough, but he is very, very close. So Manuela on her mettle, and you can see Henry Hassid just picking up a little bit of dust as he tried to shortcut the turn as much as he can within the realms of legality of track limits, because he doesn't need to pick up another one of those penalties. He already has one, sorry, not a penalty, he has one warning against him. Doesn't want to pick up another couple of those, because that would really take away his chance of wrestling this P1 position away from Manuel Agostino, who is leading this race and leading it really well for the Ineco Rapata Corsa Ram team. It's Manuel Agostino from Henry Hassid and John Dillon steadfast in P3 ahead of Thomas Gostner. Great shot that is, forgive me Nico, just as you saw Henry Hassid, the front end of the car compressing under braking. And again, he's lining up Manuel Agostino, but it's all very well being fast as the car in front of you, or even faster. You've got to find a way by, and that's not so easy, as that looks like Christoph Herney and also Ken Abe there with Alexander Nussbaumer. And right at the back of the pack, you can see the 144 car of Pierluigi Alessandri as we go back to the P1 and P2 places, which are being contested as we speak, and rightly so. We keep an eye on this battle for the lead of the race. Henry Hassid, for the moment, Nico, is the bridesmaid.
Indeed, Alexander Nussbaum, we saw he dropped down a little bit, and we will monitor if there is a problem, if you just made a mistake or missed a gear or something like that. In the meantime, in the 488s, Fabrizio Fontana has stretched his legs to the tune of 8.9 seconds over Tommy Linder, so he has been dominating this category and he continues that. Manuel Agosta not dominating, but certainly leading. And Henry Hassid, he is trying, and like in Balaton, he's not taking no for an answer, if you will.
This, I suspect, is the Alexander Nussbaumer car coming into the pit lane, Nico. What a great shame. The Gome Motorsport House Racing Team driver didn't have a good time of it in qualifying, has had less of a good time of it in race one. As Manuel Agosta, you can see her pitch the car in the middle of the track there. That's to get a brilliant trajectory out of the turn and a good run downhill to deny, once again, Henry Hassid any opportunity to take advantage of any speed deficit that Manuela may offer, because she had the perfect line through that turn, and Henry Hassid was forced to try and work in another direction. So Manuela Agosta leading from Henry Hassid, and that's very sad to see. It looks like it's a retirement from Alexander Nussbaumer. What a great shame. So Alexander Nussbaumer out then. Corinna Gosner, of course, we did see her with a retirement earlier on, or that's what we thought, but no, she's returned out again, and that's brilliant to see. Corinna is back on track again. Here is our leader in the 488s, the Formula Racing driver Fabrizio Fontana, who's had a brilliant run of success in the 488 category this year. He's taken 3 wins and a P2. I mean, it's been fantastic stuff. And he leads the championship with a healthy margin, does Fabrizio Fontana, for the 488s. And Tommy Lindroth, who is running P2 in the 488s at the moment, he's only been off the podium in 1 race. Hassid now to the inside of Manuel Agosta, then swapping to the outside. Manuela running a little bit wide there as that played into the hands of Henry Hassid. Not quite, but you can feel that even in the red hot temperatures here in Jerez, that Henry Hassid is, he's lighting it up even more right at the front of this pack as he's running in P2 and desperately trying to unseat the P1 position of Manuel Agosta. There's 17 minutes and a lap of this race remaining. If these two can keep up this pace and this absolutely charged fight between the two of them for the remaining 17 minutes plus a lap, it'll be fair play to both of them. Brilliant driving from each, and it remains P1 for Manuel Agosta, P2 for Henry Hassid. John Dillon steadfast in that P3 position at the moment, ahead of Thomas Gosner, von Skelterman, Motohiko Sasaki, then it's Christoph Herney. And once again for the 488 drivers, Fabrizio Fontana leading Tommy Lindroth, and Ian David Mari, he is P3 in that 488 race. So where can Henry really try once again? In my opinion, it's going to be heading up towards turn number 1. He needs to set it up perfectly through this final sequence. Just one more turn to do before it is the start-finish straight, and our drone picks them up. And now they head up towards turn number 1, the right-hander. Henry Hassid then trying to sell Manuel a bit of a dummy here perhaps, and ran to the outside so that he could perhaps get to the inside. Not close enough to be able to do so. Across the curbs, but only taking as much curb as allowed within the realms of the track limits for both of the drivers. The only driver that's picked up more than one track limits warning is in our 488 pack, and that is Pino Frascaro. So this is where Henry is able to get so close to Manuel Agosta, but as I said, and at the risk of repeating myself just a few moments ago, it's all very well being as quick as the car in front of you, or even quicker. If you can't find a way by, it's as naught, really. Fastest lap, though, remains with Manuel Agosta. Despite all the efforts of Henry Hassid, he has not been able to unsettle the Inico Rapata Corsa Ram driver, who has done a very good job of holding on to this P1 position and not being daunted or frightened by the Henry Hassid prowess right behind. So Gosner from Hassid. The margin between them is seesawing between 3 and 4 tenths. That's how close they are. And as Nico so rightly pointed out when we were talking about these two in Balaton in Hungary just a few weeks ago, well, defying all logic was Henry Hassid, because he did insist on running that car in the dirty air behind Manuela Gosner for lap after lap after lap, and it really seemed to impact either his or the car's performance. So what do we know that we're talking about? Pretty much nothing. Pino Frascaro here. He's running P4, and then it's Alexei Komarov running P5. These drivers in the 488 Challenge. Car, of course, that not only in the Ferrari Challenge, but in the wider realms of GT racing was such a hugely, hugely successful car. However, all credit to the team in Maranello involved in the creation and design of this wonderful 296 car, which, I mean it, honestly, every single driver that I have spoken to says this car is just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And Manuela Gosner finds it awesome enough to keep the lead, but Henry Hassid finds it awesome enough that he can attack and attack and attack, and it's effectively, where are we, 17 minutes in the race. It's almost 47 minutes uninterrupted attacks on Manuela Gosner if you combine last race and this race.
Yes.
So, I mean, he will at some point fancy something else than the rear part of the Manuela Gosner car in front of him.
I wondered where you were going with that. But you're right. I mean, you know, in fairness to Manuela and in fairness to Henry, they're both hugely respectful drivers, and the fight between the two of them, whilst fraught, it has been pretty much fair all along. And from a race fan point of view, as you and I are ultimately, it's great, absolutely great. And, you know, Henry will actually be full of respect for Manuela Gosner, knowing just how hard he's pushing and trying to unsettle her. But she's just absorbing all the pressure like the proverbial sponge. And the lady is not for turning at the moment.
No, absolutely. And there is no level of frustration, there is nothing you can see, and neither is the pressure getting to Manuela. Certainly there is no indication of that. Von Skelterma, with a good start from P8 all the way up to P5, and he keeps Motohiko Izuzaki at bay, but he's not been able to attack the other green car in his vicinity, which is Thomas Gosner, father of Manuela. He would like to get on terms with Thomas, of course, and further his attempt at climbing towards a podium position, but thus far, no doing.
Oh, and here comes Henry in replay. And this, for me, has been one of the places where I thought it's most likely that Henry Hassid could get on terms with Manuela, but he hasn't been able to do it. Was that just a rehearsal for another go next time around? Well, we will see, but of course Manuela's going to be wise to it, and will, dare I say it, make that 296 challenge car even a tad wider than it is currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, the only driver with more than one track limit warning is Pino Frascaro in the 488s. Everybody else is at 1 or 0 even, so no imminent danger in that corner, which is very, very respectful to all the drivers.
Absolutely.
But there is Henry Hassid. Now he's closer than he has been for quite some time.
I'm tempted to say it's when, not if. But that being said, could have said that for the previous 20 minutes. But you're right, he's closer than he has been. Manuela swaps, and Henry Hassid dives to the inside. And I think he tried to sell her a dummy last time around. He did it this time around, and he has gone through. And it was a brilliant overtake, Nico. I don't think there was a touch between the two of them. He just set that up perfectly. Sold the dummy that he was going to go to the outside. Manuela drifted to the outside, and he said, thanks very much, dive to the inside. He had to have real confidence in the car and what it would afford him, and he did it.
Yeah, great driving, great patience, and as you said, he really looked at it. He had all the opportunity and all the time in the world to look at possible overtaking spots, and when he was really in the slipstream coming out of the chicane on this time, I thought his mind was almost made up by that moment. that he would have a go, and fair driving from both of them. And now it's going to be interesting, can Manuela get back at Henry Hassid, or will he stretch his legs and get up the road? For the moment, it's more the latter.
I would agree with that. Already having banked some tenths between the two of them, Manuela will be bitterly disappointed. Let's see it in replay here. This is the dummy. Went to the outside. Manuela moved across. He then switched to the inside. And once he was alongside, there was pretty little that Manuela could do to defend against that. Here comes the dummy. And then switching his allegiance to the inside track going into turn number 1. Brilliant to get those replays, and from the angles that we could see there, I have to say, it's not often I get things right, but I think on that occasion I called it correctly.
Definitely, and very frequently actually. And Henry Hassid, as you can see, he has stretched his legs and he's now 1.6 seconds up the road from Manuela Gostner. So with 8.5 minutes plus a lap, that currently looks very much in the favor. Oh, and not in the favor for von Skeltema, who's dropping down the order already down to P9. And it looks like he has some issue, as probably he will dive into the pit lane as we follow Ray Acosta around the turn. And yeah, there is von Skeltema into pit lane. The Kessel Racing team will have a look at the car, but obviously that's
what a shame.
Very disappointing for him.
What a shame. Von Skeltema brings the car to a halt. Going in the other direction is Henry Hassid, who has built a margin of 2 seconds now over Manuela Gostner. Once he managed to get past the 193 car, you know, it always looked like he probably got the pace, but it was finding his way past the car ahead, which he was unable to do for so many laps. And we have, 7.5 minutes remaining plus a lap. Henry Hassid then with a relatively clear track ahead of him. It's Manuela Gostner running P2, John Dillon running P3. He's got 3 seconds over Thomas Gostner. So the top 3, Nico, are all gapped quite significantly ahead of Thomas Gostner, Motohiko Isasaki, then it's Christoph Höneken, Abe, Pierluigi Alessandri, Ray Acosta and Michael Martin. Now for the 488 drivers, it is Fabrizio Fontana ahead of Tommy Lindroth and Ivan David Mari.
Absolutely, and it's between those two that it's maybe the closest gap. It's less than a second for P2 in the 488s, and that is exactly where our great production team in the OB van take us. That is the battle potentially for P2 in the 488 challenge. That is Tommy Lindroth in P2, and it's Ivan David Murray in the red car in P3.
So Tommy Lindroth then, who's got oodles of Ferrari Challenge race experience, that's for sure. You can see Ivan David there flashing his lights to try and just unsettle Tommy Lindroth ahead. We've got 6.5 minutes plus a lap, and Tommy Lindroth is, well, at the moment, undaunted by the car that is chasing him. Pino Frascaro, I note, who's also running in the 488s and running P4, is now on 3 track limits warnings as Fabrizio Fontana then goes through the chicane in the lead of the 488 challenge with something of an 18, make that nearly 19 seconds worth of margin over Tommy Lindroth. And in the live championship, if it finishes this way, Fabrizio Fontana will have 81 points. Tommy Lindroth will be on 54. So he puts another lap in the book, does Fabrizio Fontana, who, may I remind you, comes into the Ferrari Challenge as his first circuit racing experience this year. As around has gone Alexei Komarov, the 211 driver driving for the Scuderia Prague racing team, gets it pointing back in the right direction and pulls out just ahead of our P3 driver in shells, and that is John Dillon. This is Henry Hassid then leading. And yes, so I was telling you the story of Fabrizio Fontana, who comes into the Ferrari Challenge this year with no circuit racing experience at all. That's not to say he hasn't had motor racing experience, because he has and been a very successful rally driver, Nico, which is a completely different discipline to this. But he's taken to it rather like the proverbial duck to water.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really showing it. I mean, the 18.7 seconds that he's to the good of the chasing pack is a testament to that, and his points haul from the season thus far is another one. Henry Hassid, he has stretched his legs over 3 seconds to the good now. He's been released. It took him long enough. And I say that with all due respect, but now he enjoys the fact that he has nothing but the tarmac of Jerez ahead of him. And in 4 minutes plus a lap, the checkered flag beckons.
Indeed it does. So Hassid, here he is, P1 for Kessel Racing. Ricardo Corsa Ram, Nico, Manuel Agostina P2. John Dillon P3. And for our 488s, it's Fabrizio Fontana ahead of Tommy Lindroth and Yvonne David Mari then, who's also on 3 track limits warnings now, Nico. He's running in that P3. Many more, and he could be in strife, potentially, with Pino Frascaro, but Pino is also on 3 as well. So it could all yet be changed for the final podium place in the 488 Challengers. Ken Abe right now comes under some pressure from Pierluigi Alessandri, if I'm not mistaken, and just waiting to join that 3-way battle that is going on. For P8 in the race is Ray Acosta. In fact, make that P7 in the race. That's where this little 3-way fight is going on here. Ray Acosta, who hails from Miami, who might be able to deal with the temperatures inside the car a little better than perhaps you or I would.
I'm sure, and he was the fastest driver the last time around, the 1:47.328. That's quicker than the leaders of the race, and also Pierluigi Alessandri was a second and a half quicker than Ken Abe. So those 3 really look like, based on the timing screen and based on the shot that we get here, like they all come together in one spot, and that could be an overtake maybe over the next 3 minutes and change.
Fair point, well made. They're walking away, and really rather disappointed is von Skeltermar, who thus far this season, is it fair for me to say, Nico, he's not really had the rub of the green?
No, that is fair, and
you would never expect von Skeltermar not to have made a penalty, not to have made a podium this season, and he hasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a competitive championship and such a competitive category, especially in the shell. And, you know, a minimal mistake in qualifying can be the difference between row 1 and row 4, and that resonates with your final results. But Fons really had a difficult time of it thus far.
Can you remember what I was saying a few moments ago about Ivan David Mari having a 3rd and final warning with regards to track limits, and that he could be in line for a penalty, and that could play to the advantage of Pino Frascaro? Well, right now, if my mathematics are correct, that's correct in that Ivan has picked up a time penalty. At the moment, Pino has not, and therefore it could be a change for P3 in the 488s.
It is currently indeed, but with 4.6 seconds of a difference between the two,
it's close.
Those 5 seconds have almost been made up, and not made up, but very much materializing is that battle, this 3-way fight for P7, 8, and 9. And right now, Ray Acosta is in the luxurious position that he has all that he has to do in front of him, with Pierluigi Alessandri kind of now having to look in the rearview mirrors and to the front. So a little bit of a difficult position there, but obviously his focus will be to the front. But we're less than a minute away from the final lap being called.
So we've got the remainder of this lap plus 1 more, in my opinion, if I've done the time calculations correctly. You can see that Ken Abe really is under pressure now from Pierluigi Alessandri, but the more Pierluigi really pushes the car ahead and goes for an overtake, he does remain vulnerable to Ray Acosta, and they're both coming up against a that will be the Alexei Komarov 488 car, which went around a little while ago. Now, Alexei will not hamper these drivers for sure, but by dint of him just being on the track may play a part in what happens to those 3 drivers. Henry Hassid is also picking up on some of the 488 drivers as well, and of course, this is the P2, P3 fight that we can see here, as there is Henry Hassid getting past one of the 488 cars, and he'll be hoping to make short work of Tommy Lindroth as well. And So he accelerates his 296 away now, puts himself alongside the car of Ivan David Mari, and heads up towards turn number 1 now. Tommy will not hamper Henry Hassid, I feel sure, but Henry with a, dare I say, a fairly comfortable margin of just under 7 seconds from Manuel Lagosna. So here is that three-way fight that Nico was so well describing between Ken Abe and Pierluigi Alessandri and Ray Acosta. It's all for P7 in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race, where we have started our final lap.
Indeed, we have, and that means it's almost. And there was Pierluigi Alessandri just getting a little bit sideways, and now Ray Acosta potentially in a position where he can just tuck in and try and get all the slipstream of the Alessandri car and maybe a little bit of the Ken Abe car as well, and then try and make it count into the hairpin. That is potentially where it might happen. Out front, Henry Hassid 5.6 seconds to the good, so that looks like it's a done deal, barring disaster.
Well, barring disaster, can Ken Abe hold on to this P7 position? He is under immense pressure from Pierluigi Alessandri, and also from Ray Acosta as well. These three almost could not be closer together. In fact, such is their pace, they're almost reeling in Christoph Herney now. And there is Christoph Herney going through in the all-yellow car. And we have a yellow flag at turn 9, Nico, whether someone has gone around. But here is Henry Hassid, and we think that it might be Tommy Lindroth that has gone around, elevating Ivan David Mari into P2 and Pino Frascaro into P3, irrespective of time penalties. However, no such dramas for this man, Henry Hassid, who wins the Coppa Shell race. And it is Manuel Lagosna that takes P2. John Dillon takes P3. It will be another member of the Gosna family that takes P4. That's Thomas, ahead of Motohiko Isasaki with a very creditable P5. And then we will see the all-yellow car of Christoph Herney, and he will head the Ken Abe, Pierluigi Alessandri and Ray Acosta triple play that's been going on for P7. And Michael Martin will take P10. Now for our 488 drivers, it's going to be Fabrizio Fontana once again, as someone has gone around just at the turn. And here we can see Henry Hassid. Well, he probably took longer than he wanted to overtake Manuel Lagosna, but he was determined to do it, and his determination paid off in the end, and he did manage to get by.
Yeah, great driving, and we still wait for our 488 winner. It's Fabrizio Fontana. We haven't missed anything, but it's just a testament. And there is Tommy Lindroth, and indeed his car is in the gravel. And did he do it on his own, or was there some assistance?
Well, we're about to find out. I really rather think there was. Well, that's a great shame.
Yeah, it is a great shame. It is a great shame, especially as David Mari had picked up a penalty, so even if he'd gotten by, it wouldn't have made a difference, so especially painful. But there was Fabrizio Fontana, credit where credit is due, winner in the 488s.
So Henry Hassid then, as I say, it probably took him a little bit longer than he would have liked, but he did do it. And I want to give credit to both he and Manuel Lagosna and Nico, because I think they drove really respectfully between each other.
Absolutely, and Henry Hassid is the first driver in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Europe to take a second win of the 2024 season. You won't be terribly surprised to hear that Ivan David Mari picked up a penalty equivalent to a drive-through of 25 seconds, which will affect the final results and final standings, and that means it drops him down to P4. Peter Frascaro actually holds on to his only three track limit excursions, and that means he ends up in P2, and Neil Sibranson will be our third podium representative of the 488. Tough luck for Tommy Lindroth.
Yeah, that was great.
Who drops to the end, and well, Here are the drivers who made it onto the podium, who are underneath the podium and emerging from the car. And Manuel Agostner.
Bravo, bravo.
Absolutely.
So lots of discussions that will go on, of course. And Ivan, David, Mari then. There is Henry Hassid. Worked hard, really, really hard. And yeah, as I say, I'm full of admiration for both Henry and for Manuela as well, because I think they you know, really gave us some scintillating action, and Henry had tried probably countless times to get ahead. Here's the classification. Henry Hassid confirmed as the race winner ahead of Manuel Agostner and John Dillon. Another podium. Well done, John. Thomas Gostner, P4. Motohiko Isasaki, a good P5 for him. Ahead of Christoph Herney, Ken Abe, Alessandri. Then it was Acosta. Then it was Martin. And there we could see also we lost the likes of Corinna Gostner, von Skeltermauer and Alexander Nussbaumer in that race. Fabrizio Fontana continues his rich vein of winning. Takes another win ahead of Pino Frascaro and Niels Sebranson on the podium. Ahead of Ivan, David Mari, Alexei Komarov and Tommy Lindroth. That's the order. In the Drivers' Championship, Henry Hassid is P1. John Dillon is only 16 points behind, and Manuel Agostner has moved up a terrific 5 places, Nico, to P3. So this is going to be fantastic for the final rounds of the Ferrari Challenge this year. It's going to be a it's going to be an awesome, awesome run. Stand by. We will be hearing from Henry Hassid, then the Kessel Racing driver, who pushed his 167 car to the absolute limit to take the win here in Jerez. Let's hear from him now.
Harry, congratulations. What a fantastic and incredible race for you here at Jerez. You study your opponents, you study Manuela for choose the best moment to overcome she, and you did it.
Yes, it was incredible because I know at this moment I was quicker than Manuela, but the start was very, very tricky because I was on the good lane, and Manuela blocked me once, and after I study all the 15 first minutes to know where I can overtook her, and I think I have to thank a lot my engineer because he managed very, very well the pressure on the tire, and I saw Manuela in a very difficult position after 20 minutes. For me, it was after 25 minutes, so in these 5 minutes, it was easy to overtake.
Thank you so much.
Really interesting to hear there Henry saying he had a window of opportunity. Fabrizio Fontana leading in the 488 Evo Drivers' Championship. 37 points ahead of Tommy Lindroth, and then Pino Frascaro running P3 in the Drivers' Championship right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabrizio Fontana really the man to beat in the 488 class, and not many people have done it thus far this season. So, and we will hear from him with Ludovica in just a moment.
Another success, another victory for you, the first here in Spain at Jerez. So I want to ask you if you can tell us more about how you built with your team and with your coach Stefano Gai your race.
We prepare very good the race. It's the first time here, obviously, and I think on the on TV or on the web side, I think is an easy race, but it's very too hard, too hot. With Stefano, we prepare very good the race. The team is fantastic. Thanks for my family is here. Maybe I'm happy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well done to Fabrizio Fontana then. Take a look at the highlights of race 1 then here of our Jerez weekend to music. Super highlights from a super race then for our Coppa Shell drivers and our 488 drivers. And of course, the top 3 in each will be celebrating on the podium where we go next. You'd expect the podium to be on top of that UFO, wouldn't you? But it's not. It is just above the pit lane, and Michele Mambelli, who is ever present in the Ferrari Challenge, will be bringing the drivers out there onto the podium. And as you can see, the pit lane is a packed place for drivers to receive the applause. And onto step 3 then, as we have the 488 podium first of all. It's Nils Sebranson. Pino Frascaro takes P2. There is Mrs. Pino. And on the top step of the podium, it's Fabrizio Fontana. Congratulations all round. Baseball caps will be removed ahead of the national anthem. The dubious edit version of National Anthem plays out, and we're delighted that the teams, of course, get to enjoy the podium as well, and Formula Racing up there. And Yiffy Yee, Ferrari factory driver, makes the trophy presentation. First of all to Nils Sebranson. Then it will be Pino Frascaro in receipt of the P2 trophy. His supporters club, he's very well liked in the paddock, and he's a super man. By superman, I don't mean he wears a cape, but he's well regarded, and so too is Fabrizio Fontana on the top step of the podium, which by my reckoning that will be for the 4th time this season. And team manager of Formula Racing taking their trophy as well. And Lucio Vigani, who is Pirelli Motorsport manager, making the Pirelli trophy to Fabrizio Fontana as well. And who will be first with the champagne? Hang on a minute. Yes, photographs to be taken first of all, before that celebration business can get underway here. Come on, Lucio, in the photo as well. So all drivers very happy with their with their afternoon. Right, who's going to be quickest? My money's on Pino. My money's on Pino, and I'm not wrong. As Pino Frascaro properly soaks Fabrizio and Niels Sabranson. Of course, the Formula Racing driver taking P3. There is his car. For Rosso Corsa, Pino Frascaro then driving car number 240. He takes P2. Fourth win of the season so far for the Formula Racing driver Fabrizio Fontana. Of course, we have another podium to come, and that will be for the Coppa Shell drivers. Talk of the devil, there is John Dillon, who very athletic, may I say, took to the third step of the podium. Manuel Agostino took P2. Congratulated by John. And on the top step of the podium for Kessel Racing, it is going to be Henry Hassid. And here comes the national anthem. Right, UVE once again making a trophy presentation here, and John Dillon in receipt of his trophy. He's had a great run. The Ferrari factory driver UVE once again makes the trophy presentation to Manuel Agostino at P2, and on top step of the podium is Henry Hassid. Pretty happy about that. Well done. And of course, Kessel Racing will be in receipt of the Coppa Teams trophy as well. Very much forms part of the celebrations and podium celebrations then in the Ferrari Challenge. The teams getting recognized for their hard work and support of each of their drivers. It's a very wide podium here, so plenty of room for all the drivers to get up there and form part of the photograph. It'd be ideal for someone wide like me as well. The likelihood of me ever being on the podium is pretty remote. Well, Henry Hassid was quickest with the champagne, or actually maybe it was John Dillon. There we have it, Nico. First race is done.
Indeed, great race, and we look forward to more.
Indeed, more to come from Coppa Shell and the 488 drivers. Of course, more races to come this afternoon. This is Ferrari Challenge live from Jerez Circuit. Thank you so much for watching. From Nico and myself, bye-bye for now.